Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably know that this is my deep dive series into the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light. And it's a beautiful deck. It's a very interesting deck. And just in case you are new here, let me give you a brief overview of what I do. Yeah, this deck is very different from perhaps what you may be used to, or maybe you are used to this. But most of us have been raised on the teats of the Rider-Waite-Smith, the artwork of Pamela Colman Smith, and the direction or the guidance of, or the request of, actually, Edward Arthur Waite, and then all of the generations of decks that have flooded our world in the beauty and art and inspiration of Tarot. There are also other decks like Tarot de Marseille, which are more based on a continental Tarot system, but this is neither continental Tarot nor Rider-Waite-Smith nor Thoth. This is in and of itself a different kind of system, a different kind of working of the system. But it is a branch of, or an offshoot of, the continental Tarot system of strong associations between astrology and esoterica and the Tarot. And this particular deck, again, was created by C.C. Zane, but C.C. Zane didn't do this afresh. He was part of a brief branch of tradition that moved in this direction. So long story short, it's a different deck for me, a deck that I'm not familiar, a system that I'm not familiar with. And so what I do is I do a daily draw. I pull one card and I look at it. Actually, more specifically, I pull one card from my color version of the deck, the mass market produced deck that is readily available. And I shuffle that deck and I pull my daily draw card, and then I pull the sister card, the matching card of my much older deck in charcoal gray and white. And that's a deck that I don't want to shuffle. I want to keep as pristine as possible because it has sentimental value for me. So then I look at both of these cards side by side, and if you've been with me, you'll notice that there are some differences between the more modern color version and the charcoal gray and white version that I have. So I look at those two together, and then I want some help. I ask another deck to help me unpack the meaning of that daily draw card for me during the day. And the deck that I'm using is my new go-to deck, the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler. It's a deck that I did a deep dive of about a little more than 6 months ago. But now I'm starting to get more familiar with it, and to get even more familiar with it, I'm using it as my guidance deck, my helper deck, to enlighten me on the meaning of the card that I draw from the Egyptian Tarot. And then I live my day. And then at the end of the day, I come back and I do this video with you. And then after this video, after I upload this video, I shuffle the deck and I pull my cards for tomorrow. That's how I'm doing this, and that's how I've done that. And I have the card for today. Let me show you the card for today in both of its forms. Here it is. So you saw that I got justice for today, right? You recognized it as justice, did you not? So let me give you another glimpse of the cards side by side. Here we have the Justice card in the Egyptian Tarot, both the color and the black and white versions, side by side. And you'll notice that the constellation for Capricorn is a little bit different in both of these cards, right? In the charcoal gray and white and the color version, there's some slight differences, aren't there? And you'll also notice that the Justice card in this system is 8, similar to the Tarot de Marseille and the Thoth decks. So we've got Justice at 8. Interestingly, the day of this filming, it is January the 8th. And interestingly, this is also the 8th video of the series. And interestingly, I mean, there are so many things that just rang with me when this card came out. Also, interestingly, after I do my daily draw pull for the day, do you know the charm cast tarot? They're little pewter charms that have the cards in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck in miniature that you can clip onto a pendant that I wear every day. I've got my Charmcast Tarot pendant right here, and I know it's impossible for you to see this up close, but my Charmcast draw for today was the Six of Pentacles. Why is that interesting? What is the image of the Six of Pentacles when we think of Pamela Coleman Smith's art? This is basically based on. You see a person, a male-looking figure, holding scales, right? And doling out alms, perhaps, to two figures kneeling in front of the figure. But the scales are important in that card, just as the scales are important in the Justice card. So there are all of these echoes between things, yeah? The date, the number of the video, the scales in the Six of Pentacles and the Justice card. So all of this was ringing around in my head as this, at the end of the day yesterday, before I began today. Now it's a little bit easier to see in the color version, but let me hold them back. Let me hold both of them back up for you. Do you notice the animal below the seated Justice figure? There's a lion, right? And standing up top the back of the lion, there's a sphinx, a smaller sphinx, a lion with a human head, right? Isn't that interesting? So that lion down there strangely made me think of the Strength card, which, when we think of the Strength card and the Justice card, those cards are flipped in different systems, right? We have in Tarot de Marseille, in this deck, and in the Thoth deck, Justice is 8, or Adjustment is 8, and Strength is 11, or Lust is 11. But in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, of course, we know, and in many other decks that follow the Rider-Waite-Smith system, they're changed so that the Strength card is 8 and the Justice card is 11. Yeah, so the lion in this card, standing right below the seated female Justice figure, also brought to mind the Strength card. Now, who do you see standing behind the seated, possibly Isis, possibly not, the seated figure in the Justice card? There's a being behind with wings on their arms. This is Ma'at, right? This is Ma'at, the goddess of truth, order, and right. Perfect goddess for the Justice card, isn't it? The goddess of truth, justice, and that which is right. And Ma'at, if you recall, is the one who weighs our hearts against a feather after we die to see whether we are ready to move on to the afterlife, to a nirvana, to a heaven, or whatever we wanted to describe that. Yeah, if our hearts are light enough to ascend. That's the role of Ma'at in Egyptian mythology. But here we are in Justice. What is Justice? Now, Justice points to Capricorn, the domicile of Saturn, from which these cardinal Earth vital energies enter our world. Cardinal Earth, now the work, the physicality, our health, being pointed by the cardinal sign. Now the movement forward, the directness, the pointed action. And also the somewhat harshness of Saturn, of boundaries, of limits, of cutting things off and making sure that things are done correctly. Which kind of does match up with the idea of justice, that there is a cutting. That's why justice holds the sword. So justice, in this system, what is justice? Justice is justice or equilibrium, the balancing of things. It's also to develop a spirit of give and take, also action and reaction. I mean, you could describe it as karma, but you could also describe it as causality. You could describe it as law of attraction, in fact, right? Everything that I put out, I receive back. There's a give and take. It's also one thing that struck my funny bone in looking at the meanings for this card was all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. So moderation in all things. Yeah, work, yes, and play, yes. So there's that kind of balance here as well. The idea of directed thought, yeah, cardinal earth, right? Cardinal earth, directed thought eliminates crystallization of thought. That our thoughts sometimes can get so hard. A crystal can be beautiful, crystal can be pure, crystal can be hard, and it can be so fixed that it can become unmovable. So this Justice card banishes the crystallization of thought and reminds us not to let things hang in the balance. Yeah? We also want to make decisions. Yes, we want things to be moderated. We want things to be balanced, but we don't want things to hang there suspended without any movement forward. We have to, it's asking of us to also make decisions and move forward. But curb the urge to dictate. Don't send out decrees, which sometimes, for example, Scorpio might be interested in doing. Our pleasure, our interest, our enthusiasm could stimulate productivity, which is a Capricorn thing, right? The Capricorns who want to work to reach the top of the mountain like a good goat. Yeah? The goats struggle, work and take steps and steps and steps in order to do what? In order to reach the top of the mountain. So that's all packed into this card. The idea of balance, of moderation, but also of clarity, of cutting off what is incorrect, of moving forward with interest and energy and pleasure towards a pinnacle, towards success, towards productivity. All wrapped up in this beautiful card. And that was an interesting card to draw for me for today for several reasons. But again, I also wanted to have some help in unpacking the meaning of the card for me today. So I did a typical 3-card draw from the Tarot of the Holy Light, which I had already mentioned. And it really is a typical 3-card draw. It's energy or significance is the first card. The second card is the challenge, which could be a challenge to become or do, or a challenge being like an obstacle kind of challenge. And then advice or outcome. I usually tend to lean into advice for the third card. So that's what I did. I did a 3-card draw. Let me show you those cards right now. So you saw that I got in succession from left to right the 4 of Cups, the Queen of Wands, and the King of Cups. Now the 4 of Cups, the Queen of Wands, and the King of Cups. 2 cups balancing a wand in the center, which is good. Yeah, water being balanced in the center by fire. That's good. We'll also notice that there will be a repetition of Mars attributes threading their way through this 3-card draw. You'll also notice that there are some Scorpio attributes weaving their way through this card, which is very interesting because there's also Pisces. And so I've already mentioned this, but when we think of our astrological basics, when we've taken the step beyond just, hey, what's your sign? Oh, I'm a Leo. Oh, I'm an Aquarius. Yeah. Well, we've taken the next step to at least do the first 3. Yeah. Our sun sign, our ascending or rising sign, and our moon sign. If we do at least that much, I am a Leo sun, a very early decant of Leo sun. I'm also a very early decant of Scorpio ascending. and I'm a fairly early Pisces moon. So I'm two fixed signs, yeah, Leo and Scorpio are fixed. Two water signs, Scorpio and Pisces. And my planets for those would be the Sun, the Mars, the Sun, Mars, and Jupiter. So a little bit of harshness, but a lot of expansiveness. Yeah? The Sun is expansive and radiant, and Jupiter is expansive and generous. So I feel very blessed by my trinity of astrological elements. Of course, there are much more, and it's a much more complex and intriguing thing when we look at the full chart. But the very bare bone basics for me are those three things. And so the Scorpio being here, the Pisces being here, and also Jupiter being here was very significant for me in this 3-card spread. Now we just remember we had Saturn in Capricorn for the daily draw, but in the 3-card spread there are a lot of echoes of my personal beingness. So again, 4 of Cups, all of them upright, right? Which is nice because this deck is intended to be worked with reversals, and I shuffle reversals in every time I riffle shuffle. So I riffle shuffle, I turn half the deck around and I riffle shuffle, do it again, turn it half around, riffle shuffle, many, many times. So having 3 uprights in a row is quite spectacular. Not that reversals are bad things. Yeah, a reversal doesn't mean, oh no, something devastating is going to happen. That's not what a reversal means. But it is significant to me that there were 3 uprights here. But the first one ain't such a good card. I mean, look at this image. This is the 4 of Cups. Now, the 4 of Cups points to the Pisces decadent of Scorpio. Again, the Pisces decadent of Scorpio and its sub-ruler Jupiter, from which the mutable aspect of fixed water's vitals attributes enter the world. Now, so the mutable Pisces of fixed water, Scorpio, enter the world. And it's influenced by the expansiveness and generosity of Jupiter. But you see the image on the card is not such a happy looking image. The sun looks happy, I guess, but the cups don't look very well settled. And often when we think of 4s, we think of structure, stability, of a solid base. We don't see much solid base in this card, do we? Because we get something different here. No? And it's perhaps because of Jupiter, which is generally a very pleasant a pleasant planet. The attributes of Jupiter are very beneficent. It's one of those happy planets. But here, the expansiveness of Jupiter has made the focus of Scorpio is very focused, it's a fixed sign, right? Has diluted the fixedness of the Scorpio. So here, expansion can lead to disengagement or disorientation, which you can see in this card, right? Those cups do not look like they're on point. They're being pushed away by the tides which are spreading out because there's suddenly all this extra room and the water wants to rush out to fill all the space. So because Jupiter is taking charge here, Scorpio is now lacking the fiery focus of Mars, which is the natural pairing of Aries, right? Yeah, Aries and Scorpio both share Mars. If you're working from the traditional 7-planet attributes for the decanates of the zodiac. So we lack the natural fire that belongs here in the ascending the dry path to Aquarius. But there is a chance of, though there is a chance of losing our power and agency, that Mars gives us our power and our agency, especially in Scorpio, in the water sign. There is a path to the light. There is a bright, shining sun out there, which is potential. Can you see the waves as they are splitting? They form a path leading right to the sun. So we may be forgetting that the turbulence we perceive is the turbulence that we are creating. And because we are creating it, we are distracted and not noticing that there is a path forward. As our emotional cups are not necessarily being overturned, but certainly being rocked and knocked about. So, the Four of Cups, there is potential, there is a possibility of finding our path, but right now things are like this. They are rocking, they're being rocked, they are disorganized, they're disoriented, and they're disarranged. So that was the potential situation for me for the day. And the challenge for me was the Queen of Wands, a beautiful card, a powerful card. And so I think from this image, this is not a challenge as an obstacle, but rather a challenge as to something to be accomplished. I want to be my queen. I want to be a Queen of Wandsy for today. And you can see that in this system, the Queen of Wands is none other than Aries, and which carries that fire, that energy of Mars, which carries the attributes of Mars. So the Queen of Wands, following this Four of Cups, which is lacking in the Mars attributes, this fulfills this, or this is like a vitamin, a supplement. This supplements this. And so that's the challenge for me today, is in this potential disorganization, emotional disorganization, to have we all have all the signs within us. My Mars Aries power if I can find that and move towards that, that can give me that power and the path to find my way to the sun. So again, the Queen of Wands points to Aries, which is the domicile of Mars, from which these cardinal fire vital attributes enter our world. Cardinal fire. So who is the Queen of Wands? You can see this beautiful queen seated regally on the throne with a beautiful raptor poised and focused on the side, right over here. You can see the beautiful pink boots on the feet of the beautiful queen. We can see the fire, well contained, but powerful in the basket at her feet, down here, right? We can see sunflowers, which are typical symbols that accompany the Queen of Wands. We can also see the sunflowers are on the arms of her chair. To me, the armrests. See the sun behind with the stars, the other celestial lights around. The queen has a torch in her hand. She's holding perhaps a broom or some kind of threshing instrument in the cradle of her arm. This queen is ready for action. This queen is ready to take charge. This queen is a natural leader. This queen is accomplishment oriented and is an innovator. Why do I say these things? Because this kind of queen can learn quickly. This kind of queen believes in her team and does what needs to be done without qualm. If what needs to be done is a lamb needs to be slaughtered in order to feed her people, the lamb will be slaughtered, her people will be fed, and she will move on without looking back. Now, that's not necessarily meaning that she's cold-hearted. She's doing what needs to be done in order to get what needs to be done accomplished. And because she knows the rightness of what is being done, she doesn't start thinking of, well, what if, and then, oh my God, and then there's no time for that. There's no need for that for this queen. Now, this queen has the willpower and self-discipline to keep moving forward, and she expects those around her to move forward with her. And she's ready to cut off those who cannot follow with her. She's not the kind of leader who will send the people in front and say, you do it for me. She's the one who's there at the front of the line doing the work with them, and she expects everybody to keep up with her. She solves the present problems and doesn't look back. If there's a problem, she solves it. But she can also go out and drinking with the boys if that's what her inclinations move her to. Yeah, she can do whatever she wants because she is so independent. So she can sit on her throne in more ways than one. She can sit on her throne in all of her regality, or she can go and carouse with her team if she wants. And there is time. And that seems like the right thing to do. So this is a very powerful, Mars-energized queen. And we all have that within us. Whether it's out there in the front in our persona, or it's lurking behind in the shadow of our personality, whether it's buried in the anima animus of our unconscious, we all have that within us. And so that was the challenge in this situation, to be this, I think. And so the advice was the King of Cups. The King of Cups, what is this? The King of Cups is Mars in Scorpio. Here we have it all matched up nice and pretty. Now that those Mars attributes that were missing in this Pisces decadent of Scorpio, they're fulfilled with this card. The King of Cups points to Scorpio, which is also the domicile of Mars, from which these fixed water vital attributes enter our world. Now, when I think of Scorpio as a water element, I think of it as water under such pressure that it becomes crystallized. And remember, in the Justice card, we said the crystallized mind is eliminated, but this is the crystallized water of focused emotions and focused intuition and focused spirit. Because water is also spirit, right? It's the spirit moving in our lives. And this spirit is crystallized and focused and piercing through clouds and piercing through distortion and ambiguities and piercing through to the core of what is being given attention to. So we have some very interesting symbols here in this card. We see the king facing their cup. Yeah, the cup in the water, and so the cup is the sign, the symbol of that which the king is following. The king has his guiding cup of emotion and spirit in front, and that is what the king follows. Sure, there's that clear. The king is also balanced between the sun and the moon, the fire and water. The king has both of those in good balance here as he swims through the shallow water. He's not going to drown here. He is in charge of this water. And of course, when I say he or I say she for the queen, or I say he for the king, we also know that this king is a he, a male, a she, a female, a trans person, a cis person, a person in transition. We all have all of our queensiness and kingsiness and knightsiness and painsiness within us. So this king, you also notice behind the king there is what looks like a snake, but it looks like the snake has a lion's head. And who is this? This is the child of Sophia. Sophia, the goddess of the wisdom, God's wisdom, which enters the world and helps to bring about the manifestation and materialization of this physical universe in Malkut, in the tree of life. So this is a child of Sophia. And let me show you another image of this being right now. So you just saw that being, very similar to this being, right? And this being's name is Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth. It's a difficult name for me to pronounce, but that's how I'm going to say it. Yaldabaoth. The Yaldabaoth, you see, is a head of a lion on a serpent body. It is the child of Sophia entering the world, which is it's a demigod. Yeah? And it is the dark god that created this dark, somewhat evil physical plane of existence, which is full of evil and sin. And this is a Gnostic way of interpreting this demigod. So, but in this image, we see this being, this demigod, this Yaldabaoth, risen up and being inspired by this cloud. Right? You can see the cloud blowing on the lion serpent. And this points to a specific myth in the Gnostic tradition. Yaldabaoth tried to create a race of beings, proto-humans, because Yaldabaoth got confused. They got left here on a planet called Earth and thought that they were the creator of this planet and therefore they were the supreme divine being, and so they needed to create subjects, create creatures. And so Yaldabaoth did create creatures, but these creatures were incapable of rising up. They were crawling about on the ground, incapable of reaching any potential, of rising up. Because Yaldabaoth had forgotten the need for the creatures to receive the breath, the pneumen of spirit. Have you heard that word pneumen? It comes from Hebrew through Greek to us. The inspiration to receive the pneumen, to receive the spirit, is to receive life. And so you can see here, this is the moment when Yaldabaoth realizes many things, and also the moment when the creature that was created by Yaldabaoth receives the breath of life through Yaldabaoth and begins to rise up to begin to fulfill its potential as a human being. And Yaldabaoth's realization is that Yaldabaoth is not alone, and Yaldabaoth is not the supreme creator either, but there is a larger divine being of love who supports all of us and supports the creation that this misguided little demigod created, and gives, because the divine being also not only enlightens Yaldabaoth but inspires the human to become and fulfill its potential. Because the child of the creation of the divine, the creation of the child of the divine, which is what Yaldabaoth in extension is, a child of the divine. The creation of that child of the divine is also part of the divine being, and so is worthy of the gift of inspiration. So what does all that mean? Yeah, this King of Cups is intense. This King of Cups is driven and pressurized. Like I said, like Scorpio. But this king also realized that he cannot create in selfishness or create to prove his worthiness or to prove his importance. This king knows that creation and ascension are for the greater good and in partnership with the divine. Now the Scorpio oftentimes we think of as death, but we also think of it as death and resurrection. It's the death as a portal to new life. So he functions as a guide to souls in the work of evolution. That's what Scorpio can do. That's one of the potentials of Scorpio. Possessing a laser-like insight, but no patience for dissembling. The Scorpio does not have patience for your crap, for our crap. But he, she, it, they has laser focus of attention and penetrates through the crap to the truth behind. So get rid of the crap is what the Scorpio and my grandmother, who was a Scorpio, tended to tell us. He is psychic. He has psychological force to be reckoned with. So this is my advice, the advice for me, to pierce through the crap, to be present for and assist for and be the guide to the inspiration of others. So this is a powerful reading, I think, for me, particularly today. And remember, I just mentioned that idea of resurrection. When we think of the eights, now the number eight, sorry, my leg is going to sleep. The number eight. Eight is also a number of resurrection, Especially, also in the Christian tradition, Christ rose on the eighth day. It's the card of the number of ascension. It's the number of eternity when turned on its side. But because it's the number of eternity, it's also the number of eternal life and of resurrection and of growth. So this 8 also echoes this card to me in many different ways. So what does this all mean for me or for us for today? Well, today was a day where I was supposed to do, I did a demonstration class for other teachers and a mentor teacher, because this is the first time for many of us to be working at this camp here. So they wanted to check us out, and they wanted us to be, to hopefully be inspired by each other and to get some feedback on our teaching styles. So I woke up early, I got ready, I had breakfast, I came back, and I checked over my notes, and I realized that I didn't want to stress out about this whole thing. Because stressing out and trying, when I get stressed out or I get nervous, I go too fast, I skip over things, my words do not flow well, I disengage from the audience because the audience, the students, those people in front of me scare me at that moment. And so I tend to disengage a bit. And I didn't want to do that. So there was the potential of either A, getting really uptight and nervous and distancing people, or B, going in less prepared but more relaxed and more ready to interact and more ready to present or use what I had prepared, rather than presenting what I had prepared, to use what I had prepared to spend an enjoyable time with the people I was sharing space with. Does that make sense? So that's what I decided to do. And I had been a little bit unsettled knowing that I was going to be the first one presenting or doing my demonstration class, because, being the first one there, you're going to forget things. But also, there's also a benefit for doing it first, because other people know that you are the first person and you don't have the benefit of watching other people do it before you go up and do your thing, your teaching shtick. So I did it. I got a little bit of feedback about not being clear about who the target, the target level of the material that I was presenting. I don't know if that makes sense to you. If you're not a teacher, it might not make sense. And even if you are a teacher, it might not make sense, because I don't think I said it exactly correctly. What I mean is, I wasn't clear in who the level of the students that I was intending to interact with. So they thought that perhaps the class or the presentation that I had prepared was for a group of students who were on the higher level, at a level higher than the students that I would mostly be interacting with, which is fair. And what I said in response to that was, yes, you're right. I was not clear in who the intended class was. I was more focused on who you were and how you were interacting with me. And that's what I had been intending to do when I go into the classroom, because I start off with some questions and asking them what they thought about their answers. And in that way, I would be able to gauge more efficiently, without preconceived notions, the level of the students that I'm interacting with at the moment, and I would be able to adjust the presentation of the rest of the material accordingly. I'd still go through the same material, but the speed might slow down. I might shift the lexical content of the presentation. I wouldn't cut out all of the quote unquote hard words, because some of those hard vocabulary words, not a bunch of them, it wasn't even more than 8, plenty for a class, a one class period, and not too much. Presenting some of those and then trying to unpack those words for a lower level learner, in many cases, is beneficial. So those are the things that I was trying to communicate when in the feedback that I received. But for the rest of the class, or for the rest of the demonstration classes, perhaps because I entered with such a jovial attitude and I elicited fun from people around me and I played off of people as much as I possibly could, the rest of our time together was actually very jovial. Was actually, okay, maybe, I don't think it was unfocused. I don't think we lost focus. But I think we did enjoy our time together, which I think was good. And maybe the humor that we enjoyed throughout that time was a cutting through of the crap, the facade. That's possibly it. And so then after that, I was kind of tired. So I went back to the apartment and I did a little bit of work for this video. And I waited for lunch, and we went out and had lunch. And then after lunch, we had interviews. Some students who had missed the interviews before arriving at the camp. We do interviews to check their level of English ability and try to do our best to place them in the classes that would best suit them. So there were some students who missed the interviews about a month ago. So we did some extra interviews today. Not all of the teachers, just some of us. And so it was a little bit tiring, but it was another period of laser focus on the one individual who was in front of me, rather than the cacophony that was around me, which could have been distracting and was a little bit cloying at the back of my attention. Because instead of being a one-on-one in one room, or the way we did it a month ago, it was over Zoom, so that I, as an interviewer, and one student in front of me, we were in our own private spaces, and there were almost no distractions. Here, we were all in one cafeteria. All of the teachers, all of the students were in the cafeteria, and all talking at the same time. And so there was all of this noise in the background of other people talking, which is distracting and could have been a potential 4 of cups situation. But our attention, all of our attention, not only me, all of our attention, our laser focus on the students sitting in front of us, I think allowed us to move with this into this, that we were able to help uplift the students that we were interacting with as much as possible. And then after that, we went off to the store, we got some stuff, and I left one of the things that I had purchased behind on the checkout counter and walked out the door without it. And this store, like I think I told you, we're far away from everything else. We're far away from civilization. So getting to the store is a challenge. And I left some coffee, stuff to make coffee, on the checkout counter and walked out the door without it. So now I don't have coffee for tomorrow again. But that's a whole other story. Anyway, so that we got home, had dinner, came here, and took a walk with one of my coworkers, a friend from my university. There are 5 of us from my university here teaching at the camp. So I went off on a walk with one of my other coworkers from my other university, and we got coffee, and I walked back and got ready, and here I am. So that was my day. Can you see how the cards, as they interact with each other, gave some good advice and good guidance for me during the day, and also predicted the day quite well, I think. And did you notice how well the cards fed into each other? The planets and the signs, the houses, all fed into each other. There was a lot of crossover symbology, crossover meaning that wove together into a tapestry of significance, I think. What do you think? I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about this? This deck I'm getting more and more interested in this deck, and I'm starting to get, I wouldn't say comfortable with it, but I'm starting to get more excited about working with it. So that's a wonderful thing. And I hope you're getting excited about working with this deck as well. So friends, if you are, let me know in the comments below. If you work with this deck already, let me know in the comments below. Give me some advice if you can. Also, if you have not yet, subscribe and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I try to do about 1 a day. And also like the video, hit that thumbs up so that YouTube knows that you got something out of this, and other people might get something out of it as well. It draws people to the channel, helps the channel. Also, if you want to buy these decks, either the Tarot of the Holy Light or the color version, the charcoal gray and white version is difficult to find. You can get it on eBay and pay some money for it. But the colored version, which is actually a little easier to see, frankly, is a mass market deck readily available on Amazon. Go check it out and purchase it if you want. This deck is an independently published deck, but it is also readily available. Go check it out. The links are in the description box below. Also in the description box is my email address. So if you want a private reading from me, shoot me an email. And I love giving private readings. I really enjoy it. And it helps me. It helps me to grow as a reader as well. So contact me. We can work out a reading for you. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.